And Jill, can you scroll up just a little bit so I can see the rest of the land acknowledgement? Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Before we begin, we acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional and unceded territory of the Lummi, Nooksack, Samish, and Semiahmoo people who have cared for and tended this land since time immemorial. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We pay respect to their elders, past and present. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events. All right, everybody, we'll call the steering committee to order and get right in. We have the 2024 year-end report, and Jennifer Moon is here today to talk to us about that.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jennifer Moon, and I've drafted the first draft of the 2024 report that's in your packet. I hope you've had time to take a look at that. The next step for that process will be to include that in the packet as of next Tuesday for the November 18th IPRTF meeting. And then over the course of the next few weeks, I will be reviewing any meetings, committee meetings, and incorporating any additional content into the next draft. And then that will be finalized in early December. My request is, if you have not had a chance to review it and you would like to do so and have any comments or feedback, because this needs to be in the packet on Tuesday, if you could get any comments to Jill by the end of the day tomorrow, that would be very helpful. And I think other than that, unless anyone has any questions or comments, that's the status report.
That is awesome, Jennifer. I'm so glad you're working with us again. I appreciated your work so much back in the stakeholder advisory committee work. So great to have you.
Thank you.
So Jill, I can't see hands on the device I'm using. So if anybody's got their hand up, please make sure. I'm not being rude. So I'm not seeing it. Peter, no, I see that hand, Peter. So go.
I just wanted to say, Jennifer, great job. Thank you. I've read it word for word and your draft before that. So you did an excellent job. I really appreciate it. I hope everybody reads it. We've done a lot of work, and it was all put together there very well. So thanks so much.
Any other questions or comments for Jennifer?
Yeah, Jill here. I just wanted to let you all know, including the committee chairs, I'm also scheduling the report on the Behavioral Health and Legal and Justice Committee meetings upcoming, so they can have eyes on it as well and provide feedback. Jennifer, you don't need to go to those meetings, but yeah, I'll just let them know that if they have any comments to let us know.
Thanks, Jill. All right, we'll move to our next item, which is the IPTRF committee discussion that we started last steering committee meeting, and we still have a couple items left to discuss. The first one is the crisis stabilization facility. The question that we were pondering was whether to expand it to a all facilities type, justice facilities anyway, committee, or to retire it. So I'm going to just open up the floor and see if there's any thoughts developed between last meeting and today. Peter?
Yeah, so some of the things that we're going to be talking about a little bit later in the agenda that cover the work that we are proposing for the next couple months for the IPRTF and its subcommittees. We're going to be looking at, a lot of work, what we're going to be doing over the next 18 months. And I would like to propose that we look at it in this way. It's kind of like if you were going on a sailing trip and you want to look at where it is that you are going to be headed before deciding what boat you're going to take. You need to spec that boat for the trip you're going to take. In 18 months, and with all the work that we want to do, I think we need to look very carefully at what work groups we've got and what committees we've got, and make sure that we've got the structure. And I did put together a flow chart in your packet that kind of shows us where we are, and asking the question, is this the correct configuration for all this work that we're going to be doing? So I think we should probably wind down that committee and then spin up perhaps a different committee based on all of our upcoming work and work groups. And I think the next item is one of those work groups I'm making a proposal for. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Others? Stephen?
So I think I understood Peter's suggestion to be, let's not rush into a decision on that. And I support that viewpoint. I don't think we should eliminate the committee's functions, because otherwise the task force and the Law and Justice Council wouldn't have an official say in facilities issues. And I think that's crucial. Whether or not we parcel out some of that oversight elsewhere, I'm not sure I'd be in favor of that, but at least that's an open question, as long as the task force and the Law and Justice Council retain some role in those questions.
Other thoughts?
Still here. Another option is to maybe have the task force put the committee on hiatus indefinitely. I understand, the hesitancy of getting rid of it completely. As far as administering it, it would make my life a whole lot easier if I didn't need to check in with you guys every couple months when we're supposed to have it. And it would be, I think, clear for those committee members to not have to plan for it unless necessary. So I would request that if we're just not going to make a decision right now, that maybe at the very least just say we're going to put it on hiatus, and if we need it, then the steering committee will call it back up or something like that. Thank you.
Jill, I think that's a great starting point, and that could give us a little more time to think about, Peter's plan and how we might implement that and shape the committees going forward. So what's everybody think? Should we just officially, Stephen?
I move that we suspend the Crisis Stabilization / Facilities Committee for 6 months to be reviewed by the steering committee at that point.
Second.
I will second that.
We're recommending that to the task force.
Okay. Discussion on that motion. All right, everybody in favor, just say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that wasn't opposed, right, Paul? You were just a late yes?
Yes, I just wanted to, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, that passes. So next committee is the Index Committee revised mission statement that Birdie's been working on.
Yes, good morning, Jill. Could you mind putting it up? While she's doing that, to refresh your memory, at the last meeting of the steering committee, the Index Committee presented our revised mission. And at that time, Satpal had some good input about the need for uniform data being collected across all the various players within Whatcom County, and he was hopeful that that would become one of our goals. So if you look at the mission statement, document that Jill has put up. Thank you, Jill. It's the same one that we generally approved last time, except for the next to the last bullet, which, as you can see, I added to meet Satpal's request to make recommendations to assure the collection of consistent data with uniform definitions across all agencies and departments of Whatcom County and entities contracted by the county to provide services to justice system involved individuals. So I use the word recommend because we really are an advisory group, and so we cannot use stronger language like direct or that type of thing. So I will just leave it for discussion without further ado. I think there's probably no disagreement that this is a really important issue to be addressed as we start creating a data system.
Executive Sadhu's hand
Yes.
is raised.
Oh, I just wanted to make comment. Thank you. Thank you for including this, because this gives us the departments and the executive's office to create directions for rest of the departments, because that's why I'm totally fine with you making a recommendation, and that allows us to act on that recommendation and create a memo for all other involved departments and people to follow these guidelines. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Good. My action plan is to introduce a request for a motion at our next index committee, and then hopefully that will move up the chain to the IPRTF so that you will hopefully have this by at least the end of the year, the beginning of January.
Yes.
All right, thanks, Bertie. Can you take that down? Thank you. Comments? I love it. Great work. Stephen, you're muted.
Thank you. Bertie, I think it's great also on that bullet point that you just went over, revising it per Paul's comments. It talks about entities contracted with the county. I'm probably wonking out on this, but in terms of expanding behavioral health capacity in the community, I'm expecting that we will want data from treatment providers that we may not yet contract with.
Okay.
And so I think we might want to know for planning purposes who they're serving, how successfully they're serving them, whether we would have to enter into an MOU for data sharing, whether or not we contract for services. There are those sort of future expansion questions that I think are left a little bit unclear in that. And I don't know if it's worth at this point tweaking the wording a little bit there, and I don't know how you'd want to do it, but I'm picturing that scene in my mind.
Yeah, Bertie.
I think that's excellent input, and I don't know that we need to tweak the general goal of the index committee, but I will certainly seek your input and others on the wording of a proposed motion. I think that the overarching goal is to have everybody who's interfacing with the justice system be able to and willing to share de-identified data with the same data definitions, et cetera, so that we can have a meaningful data collection. And so you're right, we need to not limit it to contracted agencies only. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Item number 4, proposal for IPRTF work group to advance the use of the behavioral care center model in Whatcom County, and that's Peter.
Great. Thank you, Barry. So I believe it was our last meeting I was asked to, I proposing this work group and was asked to put together a proposal that people could read over. I don't feel like we need to take action on this today. No motion is required, but I did want to make sure that you all, it was in your packet, you have had the chance to read it. If you have any questions about it or any discussion, today might be a good day to do that. Do I need to review it at all, or can I just take questions?
Sorry, I was muted. That's up to you, Peter, whatever, what you think is best. Dan,
Okay.
I have your hand up.
Yeah, Peter, I'm wondering, so my internet's a little shaky, so I'm going to leave my camera off. I turn it on a little bit later, but anyway, Peter, I'm just wondering if you could maybe just like hit the high notes real quick. I'm looking at it right now, but I'm wanting to see what's kind of drifting up for you when it comes to what you see as the kind of the salient main points.
Well, sure. I think the top level message here for me is this was a model that was that we saw in Nashville. Numbers of us from around the county on these issues have met with a number of jurisdictions that are using this model in one way or another. They're either planning to, they're using it now. We've done some really great research in the ordinance for the jail levy. This facility is a facility of this type is referred to in the Yes campaign. Not only did we talk about this model, and so a lot of people are expecting this model to be used. It's been part of our discussions, and it is something I think it is now incumbent upon this body to begin doing research around best practices. We have, as I said, made connections with the innovators of this model, and I think it's time for us to really begin discussing it and making sure that we can adapt it for our county and our uses. And we can be helpful to the health department, who will be is perhaps now and certainly will be in the future wrestling with how to integrate this with the new jail and the sheriff's department. So we've got some work to do. I just want to make sure that we're doing that work, Dan.
Can I follow up?
Absolutely.
I just have a couple of more like logistical questions. So are we 100% on location? And that's question number one. Question number two is bed count, if you have those data pieces, and if not, that's fine.
Sure. Yeah. Let's see. What has been talked about as far as bed count has been 60. I want to make sure that Barry, that comports with what you have been you heard referred to and discussed. That's certainly what we saw. We have been talking about 60, but I don't think that there's anything absolutely in writing. And again, it's something that we need to adapt for our own uses here in our own population. As you know, we have not done the a sizing analysis yet for the jail as a whole. So I would expect that those will be working together. And I'm sorry, Dan, what was your other question?
Location.
Oh, location. Well, it has always been co-located. The idea is that it's co-located with the jail. Same property.
La Bounty.
La Bounty. Separate,
Okay.
but co-located.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up after Stephen goes and after Raylene goes.
Yeah, Stephen, go ahead.
Okay. So Peter, I don't have it up in front of me, but my sense of it was that this is a work group of the task force. Is that correct?
Yes, and my question to you would be, have we ever had work groups, just standalone work groups of the IPRTF, or have they always been in a subcommittee? My second question to you and Dan would be, is this, if they need to be work groups of a committee, is this something that you would take on? And then Raylene, I mean, it's both committees really that would have a piece of this. So
yeah, I defer to Jill, but my sense is that we've never had a work group that wasn't a work group of a committee. And that was the second part of my question, was how do you see the interrelationship with the Behavioral Health Committee and the Legal and Justice Systems Committee? Because they seem to have a stake in that.
I have no preference on where it sits. I just want to make sure that we do spin it up and it has the right people on it and we get the work done. So it sounds like Raylene, did you have something?
You know, I'm sorry I came in a little bit late on the meeting today, but I'm looking at some of this stuff, and I know this is separate from the current center that we have, the Deacon Center for Hope, but I know one of the major issues with that center was some of the licensing, what they could and what they couldn't do. So I'm hoping that as we form committees and as we look at this facilities, that we take those things into effect, because I don't want to have to turn people away because we don't have sufficient licensing and healthcare needs as we're doing this. Talking about committee structure, I think if you're going to do a separate subcommittee, kind of like the pretrial services group, I think you need somebody from both sides that is going to be involved in that. So somebody from Legal and Justice, and a couple people from Legal and Justice, a couple people from behavioral health, because it does overlap, and then bring it to the quarterly meetings. At least that's my thought on it. So thanks.
No, that's exactly right, Raylene, because there's going to be a diversion component, a prosecutor diversion component that would need law and justice as well as behavioral health. Holly, keep your hand up. Oh.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point of clarification. My understanding was that in talking to Caleb, at least, the last vision is for one facility with different components, not for two separate facilities, which was the model that you all had recommended when we were doing, or had looked at as best practices back when we did the implementation plan. So I think at least my understanding is Caleb is still thinking along those same lines back in Columbus, Ohio, that version of the facility. So just, I mean, I think we all need to hear from Caleb, but that's just to clarify, that's my understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to got like three things, but first I just want some definitions to be clarified here. So this is referred to in your draft proposal, Peter, as a BCC based on the Davidson County model. This is not the 23-hour crisis relief center. It's a different thing altogether, correct? Okay, great. So we have so many overlapping terms within this. It's just, I just want to be able to be straight on what this is. And then, so I guess question two, so 60-bed facility, does that run afoul of the Medicaid reimbursement rules, or do we not really care about that at this point, or what's our position?
That's a good question, Dan. And I was just wondering that very thing today. That is not the way it's run in Davidson County as a, this is prosecutorial diversion. It is a secured facility. So it is different in that way. And
I don't think it's even Medicaid eligible at all. It's part of their criminal justice system.
Okay, that's helpful. Medicaid rules are 16 beds. That's why we have the 16-16 at Deacon. So with the permeable wall, so to speak. And then the other it'd be helpful to hear from Eric too on this one, since it's a PDP, prosecutorial diversion program. And then let's see, my last point I think is, I agree with Raylene in terms of having both legal and justice and behavioral health representation within this kind of work group. And I was just kind of racking my brains to answer your earlier question, Peter, about have we done work groups outside of the committee structure? The only one I can remember was electronic home monitoring, and I just don't, I can't, it's so long ago, I just can't remember if that was part of a different group, or I think I was on legal and justice back then. And maybe we took it on. I just can't remember, but just to give you context. Thanks.
Eric, do you want to respond?
Well, I have a question. I mean, I'm wondering what we're talking about exactly with prosecutorial diversion. I mean, we're kind of throwing that term around for a lot of different ideas and programs. I mean, we were talking about that, using that same term for a link style program, and now we're talking about it as connected to the jail. Diverting people out of jail. Look, it all makes sense. I just want to make sure that we're all talking about the same thing, which is why I had talked a while back about developing some better names.
That's probably a good idea, and not just in this situation. We have a lot of different names for a lot of different things. So you're right. Some clarification would be good.
And I would rush to say that it's this model, it's critical that we have people from mental health, people from the prosecutor's office, and people from the public defender's office. I mean, they're the three key players, three of the key players in deciding who goes in to this facility. So I would hope that we'd have a representative from each be on this committee or work group. Sorry,
Stephen.
Thanks, Barry. Just back to Dan's point, I don't remember exactly the EHM work group, but I'm pretty sure that came out of legal and justice, as did the pretrial processes. So when I said I didn't think we had a work group that reported to the task force rather than to a committee, that doesn't mean we couldn't do that. And I hate to be the procedures guy all the time, but it seems to me that if that work group were jointly reporting to legal and justice and behavioral health, and then had to report up to the task force, you've got a lot of process there that I'm not sure is necessary. So I think for efficiency's sake, without sacrificing much function, it would make sense to me to have it be a work group of the task force. I am concerned at how the membership is expanding and what those discussions will look like. But maybe that's unavoidable because there's a broad scope of issues to address with that.
Paul.
Yeah, I just wanted to share with everybody that recently the county council has approved a naming policy for buildings and facilities. And I think that it will be good that we think about that. There are, like we already named Ann Deacon, the Center of Hope. We normally not mention that in our write-ups. We still call it Crisis Stabilization Center. I think that we should get used to naming as well as using that name for references in all our documentation. So yeah, here's a challenge if everybody suggest a good name. Thank you.
Jill.
Yes, I was going to say what Stephen did. The IPRTF can create its own work group. One thing I would remind you is that ideally there would be fewer than a quorum of the full IPRTF. Otherwise, this work group would be subject to Open Public Meetings Act.
That's right.
I see. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay. What would next moves be? How can I be helpful? Is beyond this proposal. Should I prepare a motion? Should I make suggestions around who should be on this committee? What I haven't been around the block that many times, so I'm looking for sage advice here.
Jill, I don't know that we have any kind of a identified process to do something like this. I think every time we've done it, it's been maybe a little different. I know that like, for instance, of course it wasn't an IPTRF, but the competency restoration work group. Perry just kind of said, I think so and so and so and so, and I said, I think so and so and so and so, and that's what we did.
You're correct. Yeah, you're correct. The competency restoration was not under the IPRTF umbrella. I would suggest, Peter, that for it to be under the IPRTF umbrella, it would need to be a motion formally creating the work group, and then just be specific about how people are, I don't want to use the word appointed seems a bit formal, but how people can participate in the work group, whether it's volunteer or whether it's by invitation, something like that. But yeah, having a prepared motion at the task force meeting would be helpful.
Okay, very good. And I'm not entirely sure that November's meeting, it's critical that we do this at November's meeting, but I do think that by December should be ready to go. So thank you for the discussion, everyone. That was really helpful. And
right.
if you want to follow up with an email to me or a call, I'm happy to get information that way too.
Thanks, Peter. All right, next up is the Justice Project Implementation Plan, and Holly.
Great, thank you. Okay, so two things. First thing is that I just want to remind everybody that at our upcoming JPOP meeting, which is happening on November 21st from 2 to 4 p.m., we're going to be looking at results-based accountability, which is the model that we'd already decided way back when we were doing the implementation plan, the model that we would be using to do the evaluation of our progress and our outcomes. So just to remind you, I think it'd be super helpful if we all just had the same language, the same concept of what we are doing. And hopefully the contractors who will be doing the evaluation plan will be able to be there. So anyway, I just want to put that out there. The second thing is that, as you may recall, Marty and I have been helping with the IPRTF to kind of move through this process of really looking at how we can meaningfully connect the work of the IPRTF to moving forward and supporting the Justice Project Implementation Plan. So we've been doing that through the process that Peter has described a couple of times in our meetings. But you recall we went through like what are the different goals, how are the committees work connected to those, what staff at the county level are working on those. And at our last meeting with the IPRTF, we did that prioritization exercise, right? So that's where we left off. And then the idea is the next thing is to work on the actual action plan for the next 18 months. So earlier this week, Marty and I had a chance to sit down with Peter and Heather and sort of map out, okay, so what might that look like? So our goal today is to give you guys a dry run of that slide deck for your feedback and see if you're catching any inaccuracies. And I see your hands up, so I want to respond to your question first. But just to let you know, that's our hope for today. Is get some feedback for this on this presentation so that we can present it at the IPRTF meeting and really get everybody on the same page. So Maya, go ahead.
Yeah, Holly, could you regularly send the JPOP meeting links out through Jill to this body? Because I mean, I know, anyway, it would be just great to have the links sent so that we could put them in our calendars. Thanks.
100%. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Yeah, because we'd love for you to be there. And since it's Marty and I are actually in charge of the Zoom and all that, so it is on our what we need to do. Okay, good. Jill, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. If you don't mind, Holly and Marty are maintaining their own interested person email list. If you want to get that information from them directly, you certainly can, rather than going through me. I would suggest anyone who wants that information can request it directly from Holly and Marty.
Hey, then I have a question. Would you all advise that we have the whole of the IPRTF, in addition to the steering committee, also informed when the J-POP meetings are happening?
I'm happy to share that contact list if you want to just go ahead and include them.
Okay. And then they're always welcome to come. Yes?
I
Okay.
would say if we have a majority of them who do attend, we would need to notice it as an IPRTF meeting. So that's something we need to keep in mind and keep track of.
Let's talk about that offline and just make sure we don't muddy the waters. And really the point of this upcoming meeting is just especially important because we're just wanting to maximize the training opportunity. That being said, we will also record the meeting. So if people can't come, or if it seems like it's going to muddy the waters, then people could just watch it afterwards. Okay, so this is our concept so far for moving forward, our 3 priorities. And that, not to say that not all the priorities and projects in the implementation plan aren't important. They are. They're all going to move forward, but this will help us focalize our efforts so that we can really get some stuff done. Okay, so I'm going to actually turn this over to Peter so he can, so Peter, you can do the presentation, which would be great.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Holly. So let's see. Let's just go through these slide by slide. We're looking again. I just want to reiterate this is not a presentation to you today. We are showing you this presentation to get your feedback for our November IPRTF meeting. And so if you see something missing, you see something that's inaccurate, we want to make sure that we are hearing that and making these changes before the meeting. So we're going to go over remind everybody of our role and that what we're responsible for and what we are not, what we are charged with and what we are not charged with, because we have certainly noticed that it is easy for us to get excited about implementation and forget our role as an advisory body. So we just want to make sure that everybody is on board and understanding what it is that we'll be doing over 18 months and what a role and all that is. So let's go to the next slide. We'll do a little review of what the progress to date has been, reviewing quickly our report and the work that we have done in our August and September meetings, and then as far as alignments and such with committees, and then go over the October meeting where we prioritized. Next slide. And in that prioritization, there were 3 goals that really stood out among all of them. There was a big gap between number 3 and 4. Now, I rush to say that this does not mean that we're not going to be focused on all 10 one way or the other over these 18 months. But as we all know from our work and our lives, it is important to know what your priorities are so that you can make sure that those top priorities are what is being most focused on, and they are our main ports of call. So just to review, those are the best practices and design and operation for the new jail and behavioral care center. That is the creation of the data dashboard and strengthening and evaluating diversion programs. By far and away, these were the ones that we all found to be top priorities. And so what we have for you now is a look at those 3 top priorities and how we can tee things up for getting our work done over 18 months and scheduling out that work to make sure that we get a great deal done on those areas that we're focusing on. Who is involved and can share info. So that is on this slide as far as the work of the county, of the advisory boards, and our committees. Next.
Yeah, so I guess if this work group is formed, that would go on here because the work group will be focused on the best practices for the behavioral care center. So
That's right, Marty. It would be.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, next slide. So then we're, for each of these three goals, we're going to be discussing what the ways that IPRTF and our committees can contribute. And if you just look through these, and they're basically similar on all three of these goals. So these are the types of activities that our committees will be working on. And just want to make sure that all you co-chairs of committees see that this is something that you want your committee to be working on. You can imagine how it could be done. Think about those 18 months of meetings, both of the IPRTF and your subcommittees, and any work groups that we decide to spin up to address certain issues within these goals. And then planning for goal 2, which is data work. Again, who is involved and who can share the info. In the one that's different there is, of course, that we have a consultant, Village Reach, for developing the evaluation performance measurement plan, working through the health department. So, all right, next slide. So how do we contribute? How do our committees contribute? All of us, I'm sure, are going to be involved one way or another in data, because we need data from all of the constellation of our committees and what it is that they work on. But so we're certainly wanting everybody to be thinking about these things. Okay, next slide. And then planning for goal 3. So who is involved? It's a long list. There's a lot of people are working on diversions, and we're going to want to make sure that we're strengthening and expanding those diversions. And if you see anything missing from that list, I wouldn't be surprised. Please let us know. Okay, and then how it is that we can contribute. And again, I just want to say, these are our top 3 goals. It does not mean we're not going to be doing important work in the other 7, but let's focus on these 3 first, and then we will, 18 months, we can get a lot done in 18 months. So we will be scheduling the other 7 among these other goals. All right. And then developing a plan and a calendar, so that, it's one thing that we know is that we're going to be wanting reports from all areas of from the county, from the executive's office, from the sheriff's office, from health, etc. And we want the staff, to be on board with this and to know what it is that we're wanting to, what we need reports on, and give them plenty of time in advance to give those reports to us. And right now we do not have a data dashboard. So it's critical that we have reports coming to us. And also it's critical that we be asking and then hearing from the counsel, from the sheriff's office, from prosecutor's office, etc. What is it that the IPRTF can be recommending? What is it that we should be working on? When do you need those recommendations? And so all of that can be scheduled over 18 months, and everybody has a part of that. What's our next slide? So committee chairs, what we're asking you to do is to dedicate some time in your committees to thinking through how we get this work done, in what time frame, and what we're going to be focusing on. This doesn't work without you all doing this work and focusing and bringing that all up to to the IPRTF body, and planning all this together. So then there is absolutely time for presentations. As we are familiar with, we want to make sure that we're in an orderly fashion and with plenty of advance aligning our strategies and presentations and such around our goals and putting them on this timeline. So what we're asking you to do, the steering committee here and the co-chairs, to review the initial calendar. We haven't even started putting things on that calendar yet, but we just have something for you to look at that Holly came up with. And then begin to compile relevant data and reports being generated related to our 3 priority goals. Request presentations to the IPRTF from county staff, as I referred to before, and complete an 18-month calendar and plan, and increase our communications to the public about implementation. That's something that is that we need to be doing. Is the IPRTF needs to always be not only holding these meetings in public, but then also pushing out relevant information about what is actually happening to the public in ways that they can, language and channels that they can understand and hear. So what's the next slide? Okay, that's where we are.
All the slides, and then
okay,
if
great.
anybody wanted to go back to any or had any comments,
yeah,
we'll take them.
So thanks for hearing us out. I hope that this is understandable and helpful. And we have our November and December meetings to work through much of this. You have your subcommittee meetings in November and December to work through these things as well, and hold good discussions. If Heather and I can be of any help to you and attend your meetings and guide discussions, or certainly to listen, we're there for that.
All right, thanks, Peter. Can you take down the presentation? Thanks. All right, any comments, questions? Jill, do you have your hand up?
I do. I'm sorry, I might have missed it. You said this is a presentation for the upcoming IPRTF meeting?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Stephen.
Peter and Heather, thank you for this work. I don't think I can count the number of times that I've heard from county staff their concern for how many presentations they're expected to make. Dan and I have finally corralled Melora to report to our committee on the response systems division's priority areas, and to talk with us about ways we can support their work. It was not an easy task to schedule her. I think Kayla's in worse scheduling shape than that. And so what I see in looming in that plan is way more presentations, and there are only a couple people who could knowledgeably make those presentations than we'd really envisioned. So I'm wondering if you've had conversations to ensure that we're not going to get blowback from the staff on presentations, that we can actually get this frequency of interchange.
I don't want to get two words mixed up. There's reports and then there's presentations. Reports, I believe, are, let's use the example of the report that Kayla recently presented to us, and she's committed to quarterly reports on advances on the implementation plan.
When I first started creating content was just to share my passion for bread baking, and I wanted to help people around the world.
I'm not sure. What am I hearing there? Sorry, got distracted there by some audio. Stephen, the idea here is to put presentations and reporting on a schedule, so to save time and to give staff the time that they need to prepare. It's not that to I think that quite often this body has asked people kind of ad hoc to come and present. We're feeling, we're not expecting more work out of the staff. We're actually probably the same amount of work, but to regularize it so that there's they know what it is that is being asked of them in what period of time.
Yeah, Holly?
Yeah, Stephen, I really hear your comment, and I think that's part of the overall strategy here. So I feel like it'd be helpful if we actually looked at this conceptual draft calendar, and you can see kind of the thinking behind how to prioritize what presentations the IPRTF wants to have from county staff, and to get those scheduled so people know they're coming. They're not coming as a surprise. So the proposed, and I think for this committee in particular, the steering committee, I don't know what just happened there. We bumped from the calendar to the.
Sorry, let me just get it back.
Is to, for us, and maybe the IPRTF as a whole, to say, yes, these are the presentations that we think are the most important for the committee's time in the next year to 18 months. So I think a key thing that I'd like to draw your attention to is what's being suggested here. It was also on the slideshow, but how to make recommendations and bring motions to council. Like, do we all have a common understanding of what that looks like and means? The getting an update, and each of these are like, it's a focused topic, right? So it's both the presentation from staff, but it is also where we're doing engaged discussion with the IPRTF. So the second one, the JLBCC design. The third one is the data being collected and the key metrics. So of course, that'd be really closely tied to Index's work, but also we are assuming that at some point that Village Reach would come to the IPRTF meeting. And then additionally, this one, having somebody from the response divisions, systems divisions, diversion program, so that we can really get more informed and have meaningful conversations about our third goal, our third priority. So just that, like, are those the things that we think are most important is one question. And then if you scroll down, you can kind of see the construct of how this would work. So you've got the things, the date that it would happen. Again, the action item that we would envision at the November IPRTF meeting is agree upon the key presentations for 2025. Then we can find out on our preferred schedule. Then we can ask the people, are you willing to come? What timing would work for you? And then our focus topic for this upcoming meeting would be to review the priorities, the draft objectives, and draft calendar that we just went through with you. So you'll see in December, we'd be reaching out to presenters and also be talking to committees on their kind of flow. That should be in here. And if you scroll down, there's another thing that's important. So remember, we've got these quarterly reports from the exec's office. So right now, in concept, these would be scheduled for the month after the quarter ends. Kayla would be ready. She would have that in our packet. So everything just would start to have more of a longer timeline where we know what's going to happen, which I think should make Jill's life and all of our lives easier as well. The other key concept in this, and we'll send this to you too, is the idea that, there's an aspect of the resolution that talks about robust community engagement in the design process of the jail and BCC. So, J-POP is definitely going to be interested in that. That's part of their charter. And, that would be something we would also in concept do in concert with the IPRTF to host hopefully this is the thing to consider, a proposal that we'd host 2 of those forums. So community forums in 2024. So one again, this is just a mock-up, right? But one in April and one in September. So an early one and then a later one to see how things are going along. So again, this is this is mock-up. Just how could we organize this work that would give people a lot of agency on when they're coming, what we're all doing, and have everybody on the same page.
And one could imagine a similar calendar for each of the committees that are staged to bring the material, the report, the discussion up to the IPRTF, so that we hit a good cadence. And my hope is that once we have this cadence and this rhythm, then over the 18 months, then into the future, we can maintain that. And I believe we'll get more work done. We'll be doing the work of an advisory board, making regular recommendations based on good research and thinking and discussions that we have done to the county council and whomever else wants to hear from us. So that's the idea. Ready for questions, comments?
The one thing I'd bring up is when we're scheduling these things, there's other factors to think about. And the example I'll use is the quarterly report, for instance. We would want the council to hear that presentation before the IPTRF, for instance. So there's no council surprises from the IPTRF. So just kind of those things to keep in mind, how we deal with that broader world. And some of these presentations, but that's really the only one I can think of offhand that we would need to be careful how we phase it.
Yeah, great.
On that note, Barry, it's also, if you think about that left-hand column, there's all the regular things that the IPRTF needs to do, right? So we have to think about all those things, like when do you elect your chairs, et cetera, that we would want to make sure we built in and think about.
Yeah.
What else do you guys think?
Anything else for Peter and Holly? Great work, guys. I really, really appreciate all the work you put into this. And
Can I ask a couple of questions right quick?
Yeah.
The presentation and the proposed schedules that we just saw, are those going to be in the IPRTF's packet for the upcoming meeting? I asked because, and this is just me making a suggestion in my experience, people who would like feedback get much better feedback when the members see the information beforehand, rather than having it presented to them during the meeting and then ask for feedback. So it might be something that you want to think about if possible. And then the only thing in terms of the calendar that I would ask that you add in May and June would be review of the draft and then final annual report. And then in November and December would be review of the draft and then final year-end report.
Actually, a couple of things. One is that I was imagining, I think we were all imagining that, yes, it would be in the packet, and I think it needs some more tweaking, like even seeing it in this version. I could like, oh, that wasn't exactly right. So, yeah, I think it's kind of a fire hose we just laid out here for you all. So I hope yeah, we just need more time for people to consider. And Jill, I would love your help with just filling in blanks on that calendar of things that we should make sure to put in it.
Yeah, of course, happy to help.
Jill, is there somebody in the conference up? My square moved.
There's no one in the conference room.
Oh, okay. That's all I need to know. All right. Our last item is.
Oh, so sorry, Barry, just to clarify, we're on the items for the next task force agenda. So
Yeah.
that's the one agenda item, Peter and Holly, you guys would like, is that review priorities, draft objectives, and draft calendar. That's the title of the agenda item you want for this. Okay, thank you.
So moving into items for next task force meetings, sounds like we have a pretty full November and maybe even a pretty full December docket. So I see Peter nodding. So maybe is there anything anybody can think of that's relatively short that needs to be done in the next couple months?
Barry?
Yes.
So I don't know if this is an agenda item, but I at least want to put a little light on it. We're currently in a little bit of a crisis mode here in the court system. All of the courts in the state of Washington have lost access to their case management system. And we don't know when it's going to come up. The system has been compromised. We've been in meetings. It is delaying everything. And we are trying to use Excel spreadsheets and scanning to basically create a new case management system to get us through this emergency. We don't know when it's going to be up, and we don't know what it's going to cost to get everything fixed. And so I just wanted to bring a little bit of light on that, because I don't know if you guys are aware of it. We did put a press release out on Monday. The system went down on Friday at 7 o'clock. And other than the fact that they've got 3 teams working on it, they're not giving us a lot of information.
Okay, well, thanks, Raylene, and that's a bummer. I did have a question for Maya. Do you think there'll be anything in the next couple months that you would want to talk about at the meeting regarding caseloads?
Yeah, the last comment is on the 13th, so there'll be public comment to the Supreme Court in the morning of November 13th. It's contemplated that maybe the court will make some decision in December, and so I think after that, yeah, it's sort of up in the air still, but yes, that will be an issue.
Okay, well, keep us advised on when you want to present anything to the task force, and we would love to have you do that. Marty?
At the November 21st JPOP meeting, we're going to bring a proposal to add to the committee, add seats, and that we know that proposal, if it were approved, would need to come to the council from the IPRTF. We're wondering if it would make sense timing wise for the proposal to be brought to the IPRTF for November's meeting to say, if the JPOP approved it, do you all approve adding this seat? And then it would allow us to expedite the addition of that person to the JPOP before the December meeting, hopefully, if IPRTF moved it forward to council and they were able to discuss that before the December IPRTF meeting.
That sounds good, because I was hoping we didn't get caught up in a bureaucratic snarl that would stop things. And so that's a good idea, Marty.
Thanks.
Stephen.
Yeah, Dan and I have been talking about an issue with our committee membership. I touched base with Peter this morning, and we were going to do this in other business, but it might affect, since you're asking for agenda items over the next couple months, and it affects the year-end report, I'll bring it up now. To the best of my knowledge, we don't have any way to take somebody off the task force. And I notice in the year-end report draft, it lists Jen Lockwood still on the task force and still on our behavioral health committee. Jen probably attended one, maybe two meetings well over 2 years ago and has never been seen or heard from since. I think Jill has reached out to her. And yet there she is taking up a slot that we could have a productive participating person in, and figuring into quota calculation, quorum calculations. I also think Jason McGill is an example of someone who's not on the task force anymore. He's not even listed on the annual report. I don't know how he got taken off. So somebody got taken off in mysterious ways, and somebody wasn't taken off, who we've been talking about for quite a while. I don't know if that's totally council discretion. I don't know what's going on that end of it, Barry, but it would be nice, at least for Dan's and my committee, if we could sort of have a procedure or understand how to resolve those questions if somebody expressed interest, was appointed, and now doesn't have any interest, obviously. So I know that's not of the same urgency as everything we've been talking about this morning, but I just wanted to get that in the parking lot at least, or have somebody think about that.
We've been thinking about it. Jill, go ahead. I think you have a response.
In terms of the Behavioral Health Committee, generally at the beginning of the year, the IPRTF approves membership of the committees. Since behavioral health has added so many new members, it might be a good idea to present the updated member list to the IPRTF and just ask for a vote of confirmation of approving all these new members, something like that. And any members that haven't been attending, we can exclude them from the committee list. That's something that can be done under committee reports if you and Dan want to do that, and that would affirm the membership. Regarding the two individuals you mentioned, I will say for the record, Jen has attended a couple of meetings over the past couple of years, one this year. So, but for all advisory groups, council appointed advisory groups, there is a procedure in place for addressing absentee members. And so we've started that process for some of our members who haven't been attending recently. And that's up to the council who appoints members. It would be up to the council to remove members from the IPRTF itself. So.
Thank you. Where is that procedure?
It's in code, but
it's not in code, Barry. It's a council office procedure.
Oh, it's a council office thing.
Yes.
Okay. Heather.
I think Holly had her hand up before mine.
Yeah,
do you want to go first, Holly?
Yeah, could I just ask briefly? I saw, that Bertie's brought that proposal for the revised charter for the index twice, and maybe I missed it, but is that coming to our next meeting, Barry?
Bertie, did you want to schedule that for the next meeting? It sounded to me like you did.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to unmute.
Thanks.
I just wanted to add to Stephen's parking lot. It sounds like there's a procedure in the council office, Jill, but maybe I'm just really tired, but I'd love to just understand the procedure, because like someone like Jen and that connection to Bridget Collins is really important to the task force, I think. Or is it? And is that a conversation we need to have as a steering committee? And is there kind of a human touch where, is it a co-chair, or is it Barry, or is it Jill that has a connection point to say, to at least give the chance to say like, hey, Jen, we really want you to come. What would make it easy for you to come? Or do you know why this is important? And here's the orientation to these things. And or are you really uninterested or unavailable? Or do you have a proxy? And like, does that happen? Or do we just assume and procedurally take people off?
No, we have signed letters that went out and asking about just exactly what you're saying, to ask, about their attendance, are you still interested? Those kind of letters.
You send the letter. Does that come from you, Barry?
It did at the time. It's been a while since we did one of those.
I'm happy to send the procedure. We have it in writing along. I'm happy to forward that to all of you guys so you can see it. In short, you're correct, Heather. It's very geared towards doing whatever we can to try to re-engage the absentee members. So the first step is for the facilitator or committee chairs to really reach out via all contact methods, email, phone, and letter, to try to encourage that person to attend, to let us know if there are any barriers to their attendance, to make any possible accommodations that can help them attend, to allow them a hiatus if they need it, if they're dealing with issues, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
If there's simply no response after repeated attempts at reaching out through the various message, then it moves into the council office where the chair and I will, the council chair and I will do the same, continue to reach out via letter, email, phone, and same thing. Let us know what's going on. Please attend. It's important for you to attend. But our communication will include a deadline and say, please get to us by whatever the deadline is, a month or something like that. And again, if we don't have any response, then all of those communications will include the code that says, that specifies the process by which someone can be removed from an advisory committee, which is essentially no one can be removed without being heard, given an opportunity to be heard by the county council. So it'll schedule on a meeting.
Almost like a public hearing. They get a day, if it's contested, there's a day in court kind of.
Yeah. So it'll be scheduled at a council meeting. The person will be notified, that they are able to come and speak. And if, again, we don't hear from them, then the council has the opportunity to vote then and remove the person from the committee.
I see. Is there a way to have some awareness into who is on those lists? Because sometimes, like, I know about things happening at Bridget Collins, and I might have insight about why Jen's not responding and who somebody else there in her stead could. And is that appropriate to be helpful in that way, or is it just,
yeah,
you guys take care of it?
The position wasn't appointed to Bridget Collins. The position was appointed to Jen as a behavioral health provider.
Got it.
So if the position is vacated, then we would open it up to all other behavioral health provider folks in the community.
Okay, thank you.
Peter.
Let's see, I sent you and Jill, Barry, I sent you and Jill an email about Jason McGill maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm just wondering if we could get an update on where that process is.
Yeah, the first thing that we were looking into was residency with Jason, because we knew he had resigned and then been put on administrative leave and so on, all the things that we know of that was in the press. And so I contacted the executive director and the interim that's there now and asked that question. Do you know? I guess I don't need to know where. I just need to know if he's relocated out of county, out of state. And he said the short answer is no, he hasn't. So that kind of stopped us in our tracks on that path. And so I think now we're looking into other means.
Okay.
And that's just recent. That's within the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
All right. Anything else for future IPTRF meetings? All right. We will move to public comment. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the steering committee?
We have 2 attendees. If either of you would like to, oh, it looks like Dan's hand is raised. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Oh, I thought we had item 7, other business. Is that correct?
Well, that's kind of where we were. Yeah, but go ahead.
Oh, I thought you said it was items for next task force agenda. So I was just kind of waiting for other business.
No, I'm sorry. I had a meeting till midnight last night, so I'm
No, it's fine. It's totally fine. I just wanted to make sure I was doing it the right way. So I just wanted to I kind of feel like I'm on the Great British Baking Show where my co-chair Stephen had the bad news to send the contestants home this week, and I have the good news as to telling you what we're doing here in terms of adding to our behavioral health roster. And so it is good news. So we're at 21 people right now, and that does include Jen Lockwood. However, that looks like that might be changing. We are adding up to 4 new individuals, likely to include an elected judge on our committee, 2 people from Whatcom Community College. One is the SUDP, so the Substance Use Disorder Certificated Program director, and then one is a Human Services director. And then there's also a person from the Healthcare Authority who used to work at the County Health Department, who will be potentially joining us as well. So we'll be sitting right at 24 members. That's kind of, I don't want to go much more than that. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to balance out policy people, line people, people who have data that we just don't have, including EMS, and then the rest of everyone who's in that group. So what I'm trying to do is like just balance everything out with membership so that we can be just a better group. This has been a rebuilding process over the course of the last year or so, and we're so close. We're almost there. So I just wanted to give that update to the steering committee that work is being done, and what, just that's my report. So thanks, appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Anybody got anything else for other business? Okay, now we will move to public comment.
Thank you. Our 2 attendees, if you would like to speak to the task force, please virtually raise your hand now. And no hands are raised, and it looks like our conference room is still empty. Thank you. And Holly and Marty, if you have time, I'm happy to chat with you after the meeting today.
That'd be great.
All right, everybody, have a great rest of your day, and we will see you later.
Thank you all.